The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
While everyone in the world has seen the footage of President John F. Kennedy being shot in the motorcade on that fateful day of November 22, 1963, almost none of us have been given the complete truth. Many conspiracy theories have been fabricated for the reason as to why he was murdered in front of our very eyes, ranging from the Pope put a hit out onto him to the Mafia did it. Of course, the front-runner of this conspiracy is Lee Harvey Oswald.
You find that rifle just as fast as you people have been given, but I emphatically deny these charges.
Now, why would someone scream at the press that he was innocent if it seemed so obviously he was someone who committed the crime? We may never truly know the reason behind that one fateful line, but it will resonate as we hear this new explanation behind the Kennedy assassination.
Everything pertaining to what's happening has never come to the surface. The world will never know the true facts of what occurred, my motives. The people that had so much to gain and had such an ulterior motive for putting me in a position I'm in will never let the true facts come above board to the world.
Now these people are in very high positions, Jack?
Yes.
I hope to point out to everyone that only partial truths have been given to the explanation behind the assassination. If anyone thinks about it, does anything that they were told make any sense? Does the pieces of information fit together to form a complete story? It apparently didn't for some, and that is why that there are some people out there that have done their own investigations and come up with their own conclusions. For me, however, the cover-up is too extensive and rather familiar to other cover-ups that has happened ever since. For example, the USS Liberty and 9/11. Each situation has one thing in common: Israel. To understand the connection behind Israel and President Kennedy, we should look into Israel's beginnings. After World War I, the League of Nations approved the British Mandate of Palestine with the intent of creating a national home for the Jewish people. In 1947, the United Nations approved the partition of Palestine into two states, one Jewish and one Arab. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel declared independence. Arab armies from Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon tried to invade Palestine as soon as the British forces actually left. But the Arab campaign was a badly organized affair with untrained units who were no match for the Haganah, later called the Israeli Defense Force. In the early years of the state, the labor Zionist movement, led by Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, demonstrated Israeli politics and was convinced that Israel needed nuclear weapons to ensure its survival. Thus began the Israeli nuclear program. In 1948, Israeli scientists began exploring the Negev desert for uranium deposits by order of the Israeli Ministry of Defense. In 1950, they found low-grade deposits near Beersheba and Sidon and worked on low-power methods of heavy water production. Ernst David Bergman was the head of the chemistry division of the newly created Weizmann Institute of Science and the founder of Israel's efforts to develop nuclear weapons. Bergman was also a close friend and advisor of Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion and became the director of the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission, secretly founded in 1952 and placed under the control of the Defense Ministry. In 1949, Francis Perrin, a member of the French Atomic Energy Commission, nuclear physicist, and friend of Dr. Bergman, visited the Weizmann Institute. A joint research effort was subsequently set up between Israel and France. In the 1950s and early 60s, France and Israel had close relations in many areas. Progress in nuclear science and technology in France and Israel remained closely linked throughout the early 50s. France profited from 2 Israeli patents on heavy water production and low-grade uranium enrichment. France was Israel's principal arms supplier, and as instability spread through French colonies in North Africa, in exchange, Israel provided valuable intelligence obtained from contacts with Sephardic Jews in these countries. In 1956, Israel approached France for assistance in building a nuclear reactor. Shimon Peres, the Director General of the Defense Ministry and aide to David Ben-Gurion, along with Defense Minister Ernst David Bergman, met with members of the CEA, France's Atomic Energy Commission. In September 1956, they reached an initial agreement to provide a research reactor. Later in the same year, after the Suez operation failed, leaving Israel to face a nuclear threat from the Soviet Union if they didn't pull out of the Sunni Peninsula, France modified the initial agreement beyond a research reactor. Peres secured an agreement from France to assist Israel in developing a nuclear deterrent. An agreement was settled. France will help build an 18-megawatt thermal research reactor of the EL-3 type, along with plutonium separation technology. However, the reactor was upgraded to 24 megawatts. The actual specifications issued to the engineers provided for core cooling depth sufficient for up to 3 times this power level, along with plutonium plant of similar capacity. In early 1958, French experts secretly built the Israeli reactor underground at Dimona in the Negev desert of southern Israel near Beersheba. On December 2, 1960, before Israel could make announcements, the U.S. State Department issued a statement that Israel had a secret nuclear installation. Within 2 weeks, it became public knowledge with its appearance in the New York Times. On December 21st, Ben-Gurion announced that Israel was building a 24-megawatt reactor for peaceful purposes. Although the Kennedy administration accepted Israel's assertions at face value publicly, the U.S. exerted pressure privately. Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion became enraged at President Kennedy for not allowing Israel to become a nuclear power, and their disagreement eventually escalated into a full-fledged war of words that was virtually ignored by the press. This inability to reach an agreement caused obvious problems. Ben-Gurion had a vicious hatred for John F. Kennedy's father, Joe Kennedy Sr., because he felt not only that he was an anti-Semite, but that he also sided with Hitler during the 1930s and 40s. And with Kennedy's decision to make America his top priority in regards to foreign policy and not Israel, only enraged Ben-Gurion even further. The two leaders thus engaged in a brutal letter exchange, but Kennedy wouldn't budge. Ben-Gurion, obsessed with this issue, slipped into total paranoia, feeling that Kennedy's absence was a blatant threat to the very existence of Israel as a nation. Kennedy was adamant in his refusal to promote Israel's ascension to the nuclear stage. When Kennedy demanded the U.S. inspect this plant, Ben-Gurion allowed a cursory inspection by well-known American physicists Eugene Wigner and I.I. Rabi, but consistently refused to allow regular international inspections. It was ultimately decided that Israel was to use this facility for peaceful purposes, and to admit the U.S. inspection team twice a year. However, the American inspectors were deceived. The above-ground areas were simulated control rooms, and access to the underground areas were kept hidden while the inspectors were present. Elevators leading to the secret underground plutonium processing plant were actually bricked over, preventing the inspectors from gaining access to the plant for a thorough inspection. However, President Kennedy was fully aware of their deception. The pressure on David Ben-Gurion was so immense that he ended up leaving office, but Kennedy didn't let up on Ben-Gurion's successor, Levi Eshkol. Kennedy told Eshkol that the U.S. commitment and support of Israel could be seriously jeopardized if Israel did not let the U.S. obtain reliable information about its efforts in the nuclear field. Kennedy's demands were unprecedented. David Ben-Gurion resigned on June 16, 1963. On June 27, 1963, 11 days after resigning from office, David Ben-Gurion announced, "I do not know of any other nation whose neighbors declare that they wish to terminate it, and not only to declare, but to prepare for it by all means available to them. We must have no illusions that what is declared every day in Cairo, Damascus, and Iraq are just words. This is the thought that guides the Arab leaders. I am confident that science is able to provide us with the weapons that will serve the peace and deter our enemies." It's during this time frame that is speculated that the Mossad became involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Considering that the Kennedy-Ben-Gurion conversations are still classified by the U.S. government, it only adds to the theory that Israel is involved in the assassination. After the assassination of President Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, who Kennedy intended to drop from his ticket in 1964 due to his extreme dislike for the man, had a complete reversal in foreign policy. Not only did Israel's nuclear program move ahead unchecked, they also became the primary beneficiary of our foreign aid. Focus from the U.S. dwindled down to what is referred to as nuclear ambiguity, as each president has come to office since Lyndon B. Johnson ignores Israel's nuclear program as long as it stays out of public scrutiny.